Hi there, and welcome to Live with the Paper Pixie, episode 357. I'm Julie DiMatteo, the Paper Pixie, coming to you live from Alpharetta, Georgia. Today is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. If you're watching us live, say hello and where you're watching from. And for those of you on replay, thanks for watching replay. I want to give a shout out to my Pixie patrons in the chat. You'll recognize them in the live chat with the magic wand icon next to their names. They support the channel here by being a channel member. And as a thank you for them, I do a once a month live stream for them. Speaking of which, tomorrow is December's Pixie Patron live stream. So that's at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night, episode 15 for my Pixie patrons. I'd love to have you join us if you're interested in joining the channel membership. Once a month, I do about an hour-long live stream with my Pixie patrons. I demonstrate 2 cards for them, and they also get a free download of 2 card templates. So we do that each month, and sometimes I do behind the scenes just for my channel members, that type of thing. So we'd love to have you join us. There is a link in the description if you don't see the join button underneath the video here on YouTube. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? I got a bunch of things. I had to make notes so I didn't forget anything. If you have a question for me tonight, put a Q in front of that question. That will make it into my queue when I do tonight's live Q&A. I'm going to save all your questions until the end. I've got 2 projects to demonstrate for you, so I'll focus on those, and then we'll switch gears at the end to answer all of your questions. If it doesn't have a Q, it's just a comment, so if you've got a question, make sure you put a Q in front of it. Brian is here watching the chat just in case you are new here. And forget to put the Q, he'll try to grab your questions. Speaking of, if you're new here, let us know in the chat because my amazing audience will give you a big warm welcome. When you shop with me, you earn Pixie perks on orders of $25 or more. All you need to do is use my magic shopping link, thepaperpixie.com/shop. That will auto-magically take you to the Stampin' Up! Online store, shopping with me, with my current host code applied to your order. Now, if your order is going to be $150 or more before shipping and taxes, make sure to take the host code off your order because you're going to earn Stampin' Rewards from Stampin' Up! And also Pixie perks from me as well. Now, a couple of things. I do have a shopping promotion this month, specifically with me. If you place an order with me of $100 or more, you're going to get a free Paper Pumpkin coupon code. That is a $24 value. It'll be emailed to you and you can use it for any future Paper Pumpkin kit. Those codes don't expire, so it's a great value if you're planning, maybe you have some Christmas money or something, you're gonna place an order before the end of the month. But so again, $100 before shipping and tax, you'll get a free Paper Pumpkin coupon code to be redeemed for any Paper Pumpkin kit you'd like in the future. It does not tie you into having a subscription. You can simply just enjoy the free kit, and it is a great way to have a little bit of crafty time with everything you need in the box. Sometimes you need to have scissors or adhesive, but Stampin' Up! Is great at putting a bunch of the things that you need in the Paper Pumpkin box. So if you've never tried Paper Pumpkin, it's another great thing to try as well. Let's see, product shares. I opened up sign up for product shares a week ago Wednesday. You'll find that link in the description. The sign up deadline for product shares is January 5th. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Let's see, if you go to the link in the description, that will take you to my website with all the details of the product shares, including pictures of all the product, prices, everything that's included. Also, if you didn't catch last week's live stream, I also did a live sneak peek of the products in that, and I have to laugh at myself. Excuse me, I never showed you guys the Bloom Impressions Designer Series paper because I'd pulled it out and I was like, oh, I forgot to show them that. You'll be able to see a picture of that at thepaperpixie.com/shares. So sign up for that. Again, it closes on January 5th. I'm going to order all the stuff that I need for product shares January 7th. So let's see. Shopping the Last Chance products, those just released, or at least they uploaded that new category to the online store. Lots of great products there that are while supplies last, many of them at deep discount. So take a look at that. That link is in the description as well. There was a special designer series paper release. I thought I had printed out, hold on, I did. There's just this flyer to kind of show you. It's 3 past designer series papers that Stampin' Up! Has recolored. Those are available while supplies last. Those dropped this month. And let's see. I'll remind you guys at the end, tonight is my last public live stream until January 8th. It just so happens that the holidays fall on Wednesdays this year, Christmas and New Year's. So the DiMatteo clan is going to be taking a couple of weeks off. Well, Brian still has to work. You don't have a bunch of days off, but I will not have a live stream next week or the week after. Our next public live stream will be on Wednesday, January 8th. That will be episode 358. But if you're a Pixie patron, you're going to see me one more time tomorrow night, episode 15 for my channel members. That's the scoop there. And in saying that, I want to make sure, so product shares cut off January 5th. So I want to make sure you know I'm not going to be live between now and then. However, I will be in the inbox. So if you have questions, I will be checking my emails periodically. You will hear from me throughout the next couple of weeks. I just won't be on video. All right. So we're going to take some time. The kids are done with school Friday, and they don't go back until January 7th. So I'm going to do my best to enjoy the holidays. So that's the scoop there. I'll remind you at the end, so you're not asking where I am well, I think you guys probably won't be looking for me on Christmas and New Year's, but who knows? And let's see what else. Mini catalog, celebration, and a new scrapbooking brochure. Those drop on January 7th. We'll talk about that again on January 8th. And if you want to join my email list to stay up to date, as well as getting project sheets emailed to you directly, you can join my email list in the video description. Okay, so that's the scoop there. Let me go ahead and flip my camera and you can see what we're going to create tonight. I've got 2 projects. Because I'm not going to be live until January 8th, I've got 2 3D projects for you. So we are doing a Valentine's theme tonight. However, I see you. If you're like me, you probably still have some Christmas things that you need to do. These could easily be adapted for Christmas. So this is, I've got to see what I'm calling everything. Brian was trying to help me come up with names for these projects for you. So this one is an angled lid gift box. The inspiration for this gift box comes from, I believe her name is Catherine from Crafty Mini. She's a German demonstrator, and she had done a cube box, and I decided I loved the technique or the way that the lid went together. So I opted to do one that is a 3 by 3 by 1.5. And then this one I am calling a geometric ornament treat box because I did add the little ribbon. You could easily use this with Christmas paper and hang it from a tree, but it would be a really cute Valentine's tree too if you guys keep up mini trees throughout the year. And this is inspired by Linda Parker, who's a former Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and this is Pixified. I've Pixified both of these, so I'm excited to share these with you tonight. The products we're using, let me grab those. I'm going to use the adhesive-backed metallic gems. This is the, hang tight for that. Oh, I can't remember. It's silver and gold trim. It comes from, it was online exclusives, but I think it's now mentioned in the annual catalog. We're using the gold for that one. This is the, let's see, I always forget the name of these products. This is actually currently out of stock, but this is the gold twisted thread. That is part of the suite that just dropped last month, the Hearts of Elegance suite. We're using the Hearts of Elegance bundle. Perfect for Valentine's Day. And in that bundle are these great dies. Look at how big these hearts go. But I love the texture here. And then I'm also bringing in one of the Spotlight on Nature dies as well. So that's the scoop of the products. The designer series paper, again, this is the Marbled Elegance. All I have is, I shared a sneak peek of what this looked like, but it is gorgeous, sort of that acrylic paint pour with gold foil throughout, but it's just stunning, and it's paired with Melon Mambo cardstock. So let's go ahead and jump into the angled lid gift box. Now, project sheets are forthcoming. I'm like 99% of the way done with them. So if you're on my email list, and to quickly clarify, my email list is different from my blog subscription. So if you get my blog posts, That is different than my email list. You'll find my email list link in the description, okay? But I will send out an email tomorrow with the project sheets. I will also come back and update the YouTube description as well, okay? So I've got 2 pieces of paper. Let's start with the Marbled Elegance Designer Series paper. This measures 6 inches by 6 inches. I'll bring the cardstock back in just a moment. All right, so this is one of those scoring things that you're going to want to come back and refer to the video. You can look at the template as well, but I'm going to try to talk through it. It's not crazy difficult, but there's a method to my madness to make it easy to do sort of these angled cuts, and you'll be amazed when you see the template how it goes together. I love it. All right, so on all 4 sides, we're going to go ahead and score this at 1.5 inches. So just do 1.5. And just continue rotating a 1/4 turn and just do 1.5 on all 4 sides. Okay, now what we're gonna do is on opposite sides, and it doesn't matter, I'm using a non-directional paper here, but honestly, if you were using directional, this wouldn't matter as well. It would just kind of change where your angle is, but that wouldn't necessarily matter with a directional pattern. I'm gonna score at 1 inch. Let me show you the template. So the lid is what we're looking at here, and I know this looks crazy, but that's how it looks so awesome when it's finished. So I'm just picking a side, and I'm gonna score at 1 inch, but I'm only gonna score from the top down to that first horizontal score line and the bottom up to that second horizontal score line. So I'm gonna show you how I do that. I'm gonna do 1 inch, again, just down to that score line. I'm kind of feeling for where it is because this is kind of a busy paper. And then there's a couple of things you do. I shared this a couple live streams ago. I can just pick up the paper and take my stylus and run it right down 1 inch. And that allows me to know where I'm picking it up at the bottom here. And I'm just gonna do 1 inch up to the score line. Alternatively, what you can do is count 8 grooves over, that's the 1 inch mark. So totally up to you. But to just show you, I've got that 1 inch score line at the top and the bottom. I skipped that middle section. I'm gonna rotate it 180. So again, opposite sides, we're gonna do that same thing. So 1 inch down to the score line. Gonna pull the paper away. And then 1 inch up to the score line. Again, we're just skipping that middle section. See if I can catch the light there. So there and there. Then I'm just gonna turn it a 1/4 of a turn, and then opposite sides again. Now we're just doing the 1 inch down to the score line. That first score line. Well, now it's second score line because we added that short one there, but see how there's kind of that crisscross? So I just did that 1 inch down to that long horizontal score line. I'm gonna rotate it 180. And again, 1 inch, stopping at that main horizontal score line. Okay, now the reason why I did that is that's actually gonna help us with where we cut our angles, okay? And then while we're here, I'm just gonna score this one as well. This piece of Melon Mambo is just shy of 6 by 6. It's actually 5 15/16 by 5 15/16. So to do that, I basically just went to the 6 inch mark and I came back a tick mark. That's 5 15/16. That's gonna allow the base to fit into the lid. And I always say, cut your cardstock to the wacky size so then you can score normal. So we're gonna do the same thing, score on all 4 sides at 1.5. All right, so that one's real easy and straightforward. I'm gonna put that off to the side. We'll work on that in just a bit. But while we had the scoreboard out, I just did that. So the main score measurements are the same for both. It's that 1.5 inches all the way around. I'm gonna grab my bone folder and I'm gonna fold and burnish on all the main score lines. Don't worry about the short ones, okay? All right, bringing in that template again. so you can see here on the template where we kind of created those crisscross. Remember, that was where we did the 1 inch on both the top and the bottom, skipping that middle section. Where that crisscross is, and you'll see those are opposite corners, those are going to be our little tabs for the short side. All right, so I'm going to see if I can explain this well. Let's see. I'm thinking, hold on. Okay, so I'm going to start by cutting the main cut lines. I'm doing this backwards. It'll make more sense when I flip it over. But the way that we're going to do the top and the bottom is I'm going to cut in kind of a pinwheel direction. One, we're going to cut one direction. So the lid we're going to cut in one direction, the base we're going to cut in another. So I'm just going to start with the right. So again, I'm looking at the back of the paper. Wherever you start on the lid, do the opposite on the base. Okay, so I'm just going to cut up that main score line and stop at that horizontal score line. I'm going to turn it a quarter of a turn. Again, that main score line. Don't worry about our little crisscrosses that we didn't burnish. Again, quarter of a turn. And quarter of a turn again. So I'm not going to do any miter cutting at this point because I actually need to use some of these score lines to help me with my angle cuts. All right, so this is where I need to look at the template because this was one that was like brain bending. So where we have our little tiny square, you see that? We are actually going to cut from that tiny square. So let me get my stylus here, right here. We're going to cut on the angle here. This is about to fall out. I need to use that water tape. From here on the angle to down here. Okay, so we can actually do this with scissors or we can use the paper trimmer. Also, if it's easier for you to see your score lines on the back, I can do the same thing. So from there down to, I'm going to do one thing to help to make this look a little bit easier. Okay, so where we cut this line and we've got our little square here, I'm going to come up and just kind of isolate this guy. All we want left behind in this corner and that corner are the tiny little squares. Like so. And that's going to make us visualize that cut a little bit easier. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite corner. So I'm removing these two sections here and leaving behind a tab. We'll wait to miter cut till last. Okay. All right, pieces and parts. Again, look for those little tabs. We're going to cut on an angle from the tab to the opposite edge here. If you need to, you can absolutely do a pencil mark. Sometimes that's easier to see on the paper trimmer. I prefer to use the paper trimmer because that's kind of a long way. Again, this is shrunk down a little bit, but that's a long way for the scissors to go, okay? So, from the bottom, or I should say, yeah, the bottom of that little tab, we're going to cut on the angle. I'm going to move that piece out of the way. And I just like to line up that little intersection there. So that little intersection right here on the side of that tab, right in the cutting groove, and the point in the cutting groove. And I'm actually going to fold that out of the way. Once I have it in place, I'm just folding that out of the way and cutting. So we've used our tab as a guide. Cut from the tab down to the corner like that. So we can do the same thing on the opposite side. Fold paper out of the way as needed. Once I've got it in position. So a trick here, or a tip, is you can line up one thing. So let's say we line up the point here. If I put my finger there, then that allows me to pivot the bottom part. So I kind of, that's how I like to maneuver this when I'm cutting diagonal pieces. So I'm cutting the tab away just so that I don't cut where I don't want to cut. So again, like so. Okay. Now, on the opposite sides, we want to, I'm going to dry fit this just so this will make a little bit more sense. So this tab's going to go in, which means, see how this long piece here, we're going to go on the angle from the tab down. Okay, so you're kind of going down. Let me do one of them. So from the tab to the end here. Go. I'm going to fold that tab just out of the way. I forget it's easier to see on the other side. But like that. So you see where the tab is? Both of those pieces are tapering in like that. So that when this goes together, that's where you kind of get that magical look of that side of the box. Okay, so take your time. I know that this seems really tedious, but I promise after you've made a few of these and you look at the template, it's gonna make a lot more sense. So we're gonna do the same thing here. Again, we've got our taper going in here. We want it to go the opposite direction here. And I'll do it from the back side so you can see the score lines better. So from the end of that tab, diagonally to this score line here. Again, I like to fold stuff out of the way so that it doesn't, oops, my trimmer came out of the track, like so. That piece came like that. So again, opposite corner, and we do that. Look how that meets up. It's so cool. We've basically just cut out, it's a normal lid, but we've cut out at an angle these edges. Isn't that crazy? I love the way that looks. So now we just need to do a little bit of miter cutting. And you'll see that notified on here, or identified on the template. So the two tabs, I'm just gonna isolate those. You're gonna miter cut those just as normal. Those are the easy ones. The other ones are easy too, but there's just a little bit more of a miter cut you need to do on one side. So got those tabs. And then you'll see that we've left behind a piece here. I'm gonna remove the whole, just gonna cut right along that score line. This is basically our little tab that's gonna fold into the box here, okay? So just, that's why we had that score line there. We're gonna go ahead and remove that. All right, so the miter cut right to the inside of the box, that's a normal miter cut. Normal meaning, I don't know, I do like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch. And then when I line this up, you'll see that there's a little bit of overhang there. So I like to cut this angle just a little bit. You could go up to like 45 degrees if you wanted, but just cut off enough of an angle so that when you glue that together, you don't have any overhang there. So same thing on the opposite side. Normal miter cut on the inside. And then a deeper angle. All kinds of geometry today. These are very geometric boxes. So again, when we line that up, that's not getting in the way there. Okay. All right, let me clean up my mess and then we're gonna glue our lid together. The hardest part is cutting it, but it goes together really easily. So you just wanna make sure that as you're cutting, see these two angles go in and these two angles go in, and that gives us this really awesome look, okay? But this is still kind of in the pinwheel pattern, like, well, I'll show you when we cut this one. The only difference is we've got some angle cuts and we used where we did the score lines to give us that, the measurements there. And if you need to trim anything, if you were off just slightly, just dry fit it and see if you need to make any adjustments, okay? All right, so let me put that away. I'll bring that out in just a moment again. I'm gonna grab my liquid glue here and I'm just gonna work my way around to the tab. So liquid glue, I do recommend when you're using a specialty paper that's got foil, be lighter handed with the glue because it tends to slip around a little bit with the foil. So I'm just going to take my time and just make sure to line up that cut edge with that score line. And liquid glue really is your friend for this because it allows you to get that right into place. Isn't that so cool? That's that acrylic pour that the concept artist did to create this pattern. It's gorgeous. I could watch acrylic pour videos all day long. So same thing, we're gonna line up the cut edge with the score line. This is our tiny little tab. It's not that tiny, it's a 1/2 inch. But again, take your time getting that lined up. The sharper you are with your corners here, the nicer this will fit on the lid. If you're a little loose with your corners here, then your lid is going to be a little bit loose. Again, just like a normal box, putting together those corners. Here we go. And then the last tab. Tuck that guy in there. And you do want to take your time and make sure that those are nice and stuck down, because you do have tabs at all 4 corners, so you want to make sure that those don't fight the box. But there is the lid. It looks so unique the way it is, like without it being on the box. If you wanted to, you could also come in and just burnish on those tabs and making sure that all that adhesive is in place. And just use kind of the tip of my bone folder there to get that into place. All right, so the lid is ready to put on the box. We're gonna bring in the base now. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and fold and burnish on all the score lines. And if you remember, this was just slightly smaller than 6 by 6, and that's gonna allow it to fit really nicely in the lid. So remember what I told you when we cut sort of the pinwheel on the lid, this one we're just gonna do opposite. So instead of cutting up the right side, and again, I'm looking at the back side of the paper, I'm gonna cut up the left side. I'm gonna turn 1/4 of a turn. I guess I'm just doing it counterclockwise, but cut, 1/4 turn, and just work your way around kind of in that pinwheel formation. And by doing this opposite, you know me and my particularities, the seams are going to be lined up exactly the same. So I don't know if you can see, the edge of the cardstock is here on this side, same with the designer series paper. So that's why we kind of did those opposite. Now the only thing I need to do here with the base is just come in and miter cut those tabs. Now again, this is going to look opposite, but that's because my template goes this direction. And again, this is smaller because there's the only way I could get it to fit. All right. So I like to fold pieces out of the way to then come in and miter cut. Like so. Then I'm going to fold up. I'm just working my way around to get at those tabs. There's a whole bunch of different ways you could miter cut tabs for boxes. I'm sure if you've been watching box construction for a while, just whatever your preference is with the little miter cuts. You're basically trying to get the edges of the cardstock out of the way so that the box goes together nicely. All right. Oh, I got one more. There we go. All right, pieces out of the way. Now what we're going to do is just assemble this just like, well, not just like the lid, but pretty similar. I'm going to line up then score line with cut edge, liquid glue, and then we're going to form our box base. I do recommend that you use liquid glue for this as well and just go right up to the score line. It's just going to give you a really nice adhesion, and your box will hold together for a long time. I have found that liquid glue really holds itself together for a long time compared to things like tear and tape and tape runner, especially depending on your climate. And this is a really good size box, so you can put all kinds of stuff in it. I don't have anything specifically to fit, but I did want to show you how big of a box you could get using a 6 by 6 designer series paper lid. One of the things I love about using 6 by 6 or 4 by 6 is you can get a lot more pieces out of a sheet of 12 by 12, but it is amazing the things that you can make out of that size of paper. So again, I am taking my time here as well, making sure those corners are lined up nicely. That's just going to help the lid fit. And then I got the last tab, which always with these boxes is a little bit trickier to get into place, but paper is forgiving. So you just kind of have to pull things apart to get that tucked in there. We're going to do a little bit of heat embossing tonight. I've already heat embossed for the other 3D project. We're just going to do the one tonight. But there is the base, and again, you can come in on those tabs and just burnish if you want to. It just gets everything smoothed down and all that glue spread out. And then of course, as usual, we hold our breath and hope that the box will fit. I'm just kidding, it will fit. There we go. Look at that. So it's actually not falling off, but it does fit on really nicely. So because we cut the base just a 1/16 of an inch smaller, that gives us about a 32nd of an inch of wiggle room on either side. So there's just a really nice fit. Now, it's not going to be something that if you had something really heavy in the box and you flipped it over, of course the lid's going to fall off, but it's not going to fall off by shaking it, I should say. So it's a really nice fit. You could absolutely wrap this with ribbon if you wanted to. And I'm going to go ahead and start to work on our decoration here. And I've started with a die cut piece from the Spotlight on Nature dies, and this one measures 2 3/4 in diameter. And then I've die cut ahead of time a heart from Melon Mambo. Again, that's from the Hearts of Elegance bundle. And then this is actually from the Brushed Silver and Gold. Make sure I have that one right. Brushed Silver and Gold foil, again, which released with the season or Hearts of Elegance suite. I think that's what it was called, but you can see there's a little bit of texture there. Okay. All right. So we're going to bring in, I've already got my Misty set up to do the heat embossing. And ahead of time, I had created a template. Basically, I just took a 1/4 sheet of paper, put it in my Misty, stamped on it with Versamark, heat embossed, then die cut. And now I can cut a bunch of blanks and then just place my blank right in that little template. And I know that when I stamp that, it's going to go right where I want it to go. So we're going to do Versamark. We're using the sentiment Be Mine. I do really like to use a stamp positioning tool for heat embossing because I like to kind of do a double layer of Versamark. So I'll stamp it once and then we'll stamp it a second time. Like so. And then I'm going to use my take your pick tool. The little spatula end helps me to get, especially if I'm doing a bunch of multiples, that just helps me to get that out of there. All right. Oh, I got that and this. All right, so I've got my Basics embossing powder in white. Let's get the Versamark put away. Just got a folded piece of scrap paper. This is the opaque bright white. I'm just gonna sprinkle it on the Versamark. I'm gonna do kind of a double. Double is the name of the game if you want to get some really good embossing. At least that's in my experience. Doing the second, I did not use my embossing buddy. So we're just gonna kind of work on some of those flecks there. I need my, I should have done my embossing buddy first, but hey, you know, we're live and that's how it goes. I'm gonna get this embossing powder out of the way. Just folding up my paper and putting it back in the jar. For this, I'm just going to use my reverse tweezers because I don't know where my embossing tweezers are. And then the heat tool. just about to start to turn. See that? I mean, this is, to me, no matter the hundreds of times I've done it, is magic. There we go. Turn that off. All right, so we've got Be Mine, we've got our spotlight on nature, and our little heart. And I'm just gonna create like a little bit of a vignette here. So, or collage, I should say. Vignette, collage, I don't know. So the white circle is gonna go down first. I'm gonna put the Be Mine at a little bit of an angle. This is ultimately gonna go here. So let me take liquid glue on the back of the heart. And again, just eyeballing it. I don't really want the heart to hang off the edges. Then I'm gonna grab the gold, I keep having to look up the names. The gold twisted thread. I'm gonna do a little bit of a faux bow. Grab a mini glue dot here. And I'm just doing like a little zigzag. No knots or anything. I just pinch it kind of between my fingers. And I can kind of pick and choose the length of the loops. And then I'm going to stick that on a mini glue dot. So basically the 3 pieces of the thread, I'm sticking right on a glue dot there. So see how that's kind of zigzagged? Then I can come in and cut my tails. Love doing faux bows. Love saying faux bow too, but of course I've got my paper piercer tool here. And just kind of eyeballing. Let's do this like here. I'm gonna pop that there, okay? The heart's gonna go just over it. It's sticking to my fingers. Dimensionals. Just a pair of them. I'll do one here and one just across from it. So there's a little bit of a channel there for the thread. I'm just gonna pop that right there. And then we're gonna glue this all down to the box. I figured there's enough dimension with that heart being on dimension. If you wanted to, you could absolutely pop the Spotlight on Nature circle on with dimensionals. And again, I'm just centering that on the lid, like so. I'm gonna press from the outside, but also press from the inside too. Now we could have absolutely done this before we put the lid together, but there's that. And then one more thing. Gonna grab one of the gold adhesive backed metallic dots. Don't know where my take your pick tool is. I'll never get rid of the paper piercing tool, even though they've been long since retired, but I love having that in my stash. And there we have our angled lid gift box. So there's the sample there. Super cute and pretty. Now again, if you've still got some Christmas stuff you got to do, use up your Christmas paper, but this is great for Valentine's Day, birthday, you name it. You can fit quite a few things in here, or quite a bit of different things, tons of candy. You can throw a whole handful in there. But again, this measures 1.5 inches in height and it's 3 by 3. So really good sized box. So there we go. That's that. I'm going to take a moment and just request that you give us a thumbs up if you enjoy what you're watching on here. That helps us here on YouTube as I transition to our next project, which is our geometric, what do we call it, Brian? Our geometric ornament treat box, okay? Geometric ornament treat box. So this one uses a 4 by 6 inch piece of paper, like so. And I am going to, along the 6-inch side, again, this is the same pattern, but all the patterns in this designer series paper are gorgeous, both sides really, but I know you're gonna have a hard time putting the gold foil on the inside, although isn't that such a cute pattern with the roses? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and score along the 6-inch side here at 1 3/8, 2 3/4, 4 1/8, and 5 1/2. So again, that was 1 3/8, 2 3/4, 4 1/8, 5 1/2. I'm gonna rotate it clockwise and we're gonna score it at 3/4. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is fold and burnish on all the score lines. And then while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and let me grab the template. This one's going to look wacky until we start doing some stuff, but I'm going to cut up each of the vertical score lines along the bottom. You'll notice I'm not doing any miter cutting along here because I've got a really cool closure on the bottom. And then we're going to remove this lower rectangle. So again, easier for me to see on the back. Just take your time cutting straight up the middle of those score lines. And then to remove this corner, I'm just going to come in and do a little miter cut. Okay, so we'll get that part out of the way. I almost forgot to do that on my sample. So there's a couple of things we can do here. We could absolutely glue this closed and do the work with it glued closed. I'm going to do it by just kind of dry fitting that tab so that you can see how it turns out like this, like magic, cool, and geometric without gluing the tab down. We can glue the tab down last. So basically what I'm going to do is just dry fit this. I tucked the tab in to where my seam is here on the right side. Okay, so it's basically flat. You could glue this if you wanted to for these next few steps. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. There's no real benefit to one way or the other, to be honest. Maybe it's easier if you glue it down. But it was so hard to come up with a template for this project because of some of the angle work, and it's not hard, I promise. This looks wild and crazy, but if you've ever done any of these, there's quite a few demonstrators that have done boxes like this before. It's not as crazy as it looks. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of fold that flat. I'm going to turn it sideways and I'm just going to use a ruler. You could absolutely line this up on your Simply Scored or your scoring tool. We just need to make a little pencil mark at 1.5 inches. And I borrowed Brian's pencil because mine broke. It's a mystery. So 1.5, I'm just going to make a pencil mark, and don't worry, we're going to come in and erase those. And again, this is from the top down. So I said, that looks like it's more than 1.5, but no, that's right, 1.5. The bottom here is where we cut those. So you're going from the top down 1.5 inches, and you're going to do it on both sides. 1.5. Just make sure you can see your pencil marks. Easier to see that one down here, okay? Then I'm just gonna flip it over and do the same thing. So 1.5, and again, you could absolutely do this on your scoreboard if that's easier. 1.5. Now, all we're gonna do now is still keeping this flat. I'm gonna take my ruler and found it, my take your pick tool, but I'm gonna actually pull out put the stylus attachment on. So I'm gonna score from the pencil mark on the angle to the opposite corner. And we're going to do it on both sides because we are going through 2 layers of cardstock. I'm going to do that. You're going to do on both sides. So pencil mark to the opposite corner. You're doing a crisscross. Whoops. I need to switch to my new take your pick tool. I bought one, just haven't switched. So pencil mark to the corner. Like so, you're doing like a crisscross. So you'll do the same thing on the opposite side. Remember, we did the pencil marks on both sides. And this is just so that we can see the score lines on both sides of the paper. There we go. Okay. Now at this point, I can come in, open this all the way, and just erase my pencil marks. I have my photopolymer eraser, which I use for my stamps, but I might have to bring out a new one that's just for erasing pencil. All right, so I got rid of the pencil marks. Again, we can put this back into the orientation where we did those crisscross marks. You can kind of see them, a little hard on this paper. Then I'm gonna basically flip-flop this over to where my seam is now in the center. You see that? And when you do that, you're gonna see, I'm gonna fold this so you can see that. The score lines now are in a different position. See that score line? It's so hard to see on this paper. You're gonna cut off those corners so it comes to a point. So you're cutting right along those score lines. Again, let me recap that before we do it. We did our score lines crisscross this way with the seam on the side, and then I'm just moving that seam to the center. And then that just changes the position of those diagonal score lines. And then I'm just gonna cut those corners off. And again, I'm right-handed, so it's just easier for me to cut from the right up to the left, like that. And this one you'll feel, you're cutting through the 1/2" tab, you're cutting through three pieces of paper right there at the top. Okay, so there's that. Then while we're here, I'm gonna punch a hole. And that is just 3/4 inch down from this point. So I'll line that up at 3/4. Grab my pencil, just put a little dot there. It's gonna get punched away. I'm gonna use a 1/8 inch hole punch. And again, this is still folded flat, and we'll punch like so, okay? All right. So now I'm gonna flip-flop this back to where we started. And now we have something that look like cat ears. And those we're just gonna fold like forwards and backwards. And that is just kind of training the cardstock to fold on those score lines like so. Kona's got dreaming right now. Our chocolate lab is dreaming. She's chasing bunnies in her sleep, I think. Yeah. All right, so if I open this, now we look like our template. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is go ahead and glue this tab. And I'm just gonna do that like normal, but see, it looks so wacky and crazy, but see, it was way easier to do that. It's just based on score lines and how you cut it. So let me just recap again. We did our score lines diagonally from that 1.5 inch score line to the corner on both sides. Then we flip-flopped our little center seam, and then we cut on the score lines we could see on the top. Flip-flopped it back, and then just folded back and forth on those score lines, okay? So now, I'm on the back side of the paper, I'm gonna fold on the second score line from the left, and I'm gonna do liquid glue right along that 1/2 inch tab. Now this one, you wanna be sure that you're covering your whole tab, especially down to this little corner here, and I'll show you why once we put it together. Okay, so then I'm just gonna fold on the first score line from the right, and that's gonna line right up, okay? So again, if it's easier, you can absolutely do that first. I just wanted to be able to open it up to show you how the template looks like that. I'm not sure you would ever look at the finished, this template is more just for reference to show you what it would look like if you didn't glue the tab down. All right, so I strategically did the score lines the way they are. So technically the seam of the box is gonna go right in the back of the box, okay? And that was my preference. If you don't like that, you could absolutely flip-flop where you put that score line, but I liked, because of the orientation of this ornament, I wanted that seam right along the back there, okay? Now we're gonna do one more thing before we put this together, and I wanna create a little mechanism for our preheat embossed. I did this ahead of time, but it is just XOXO with the smaller of the hearts, and we're gonna put that on the front, but because of the fact that this is geometric in nature, I'm gonna put a little mechanism here. Now, I'm gonna actually do something different. On this one, I did designer series paper. I don't love the look of that. If you like the look of that, do designer series paper. I'm gonna show you how to do it with cardstock, but it's really easy. I've done this before on a previous fancy fold. Let's see. So all you're gonna do is just cut a 1-inch square piece of cardstock, whatever color you wanna do. So I'm just gonna do 1 inch. By 1 inch. And then with this piece, okay, we've got this tiny little square. We're just gonna line that up on the little 1/2 inch mark. I'm gonna score in one direction, turn it a 1/4 of a turn, and cut in the other. And just a real quick way to give you 2 ready scored pieces. And that's gonna be our little mechanism. We're just gonna fold those in half and just make sure you're paying attention to where your seam is. This is the front, and I'm gonna glue these little tabs like so on either side of that center score line. So they're gonna go right there, okay? I'm only gonna put glue on one side, and again, just light on the glue. You don't need a lot. So you want it to open like that, but I'm going right up to the seam or that score line, but not touching it. Like that. See how it looks like that from the side? So then what I'm gonna do is just put a little bit of adhesive on those 2 flaps. Oops, that was a little heavy on the adhesive. See that? And I'm just gonna take my heart and stick it right down. I'm lining up basically the point of the heart and the indent of the heart along that score line. So it's center. And then when this pops open, see how that heart can freely, and I actually feel like with the cardstock, this is a little bit floppier than this was. I don't mind seeing the pink cardstock behind it, okay? All right, so there is that. It's easier, well, really easier to add that mechanism while it's still flat. And then what we're gonna do is, let me get some ribbon. I'm gonna kind of guesstimate here, but I'll measure it and tell you how much it is. I'll do about that much. Get my bigger ruler out and I can tell you. It's about 10 inches of ribbon, 9 to 10 inches. I'm just gonna create a loop with a knot. And just wait until you see this guy come together. So cute. Yep, just doing a knot at the bottom. I don't worry too much about the length of the tails. You could absolutely trim them, but that knot should be big enough so that it doesn't go through the 1/8 of an inch hole punch. And I'm just gonna kind of pinch to get a little bit of a corner there. We're gonna first feed that, well, there's one thing I forgot to tell you to do. This back section, I'm actually going to do a little 1/2 inch finger notch. And it's the one that has the seam running through it, so just a little 1/2 inch finger notch. We're gonna first feed our knotted ribbon through that hole, like so. And then we're gonna actually fold this side in, and it should go right along those score lines. See why there's the finger notch in there? I'm just kind of pinching along those score lines. Then we're gonna feed it through the front. And then I'm gonna start to fold on this one. Don't worry about the ribbon yet. Fold that one down. And then you can pull that ribbon taut. But how cute is the top of that? It does remind, I told Brian it reminds me a bit of an owl or even cat ears. That could be cute for Halloween. Now you're probably thinking, well, what the heck, Julie? What are we gonna do with the bottom? So the bottom, I opted to not glue the bottom because one, I wanted a box that I could create out of 4x6 because I love being economical with paper. And two, I wanted another option for the recipient to get the treat out of the box. So this will perfectly fit a Ferrero Rocher. I'm gonna actually put that in upside down here. Put that in now. It actually would be easier to put it in, I don't know, at some point. But we're gonna close this like you would close a box that you've already opened. So you're just gonna close the flaps. For me, I do them in clockwise order. It doesn't really matter. And then you're gonna take the last one and tuck it underneath. Now, you're gonna see that's gonna fight itself just a little bit. So I'm just gonna press that in and it's gonna pop to the inside. And believe it or not, that Ferrero Rocher is not coming out, but it is an option. You can either open from the bottom or you can open from the top, okay? So I didn't think I showed you that on my sample, but isn't that so cute? And that's because the bottom is exactly 3/4 of an inch. This box is 1 3/8 inch square, but it just also gives us a little bit of wiggle room because it's a little, I don't know, a little bit contorted because this length is a little bit shorter than this length, but I love the look that that gives. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just grab one of our gems. Oh, Julie, right here. The adhesive backed metallic gems. I forgot I changed my attachment. I'm gonna take your pick tool and then we're gonna add that just to the very bottom of our heart for a little bit of bling. Is that not so cute? Oh my gosh, I love this. And you know, for those of you that maybe have a few more things to put on your tree, or I don't know if you're like me, but there's always somebody that you're like, oh, I meant to get something for them. This could be a really cute thing to have. Or even for table favors, or hang them on the tree for your Christmas gifts, if you're having people over for Christmas, but super cute. There's the Valentine's version, but again, you can change it up for Christmas, birthdays, you name it. So those are tonight's projects. We got geometric tonight, didn't we? We've got our angled lid gift box and our geometric ornament treat box. So there we go. Those are tonight's projects. The last two projects from the Paper Pixie for 2024. All right, let me go ahead and tee up your questions. Let's get to those before we end up tonight's stream. Grabbing questions for me. We good? Okay. Let's get them teed up. Hopefully I don't hit the wrong button. Let's see. All right. Starting with Janet. If you become a patron and you miss a live, is there a replay to watch? Absolutely. So, believe it or not, if you join the Pixie Patrons now, you can actually go back and watch all previous 14 episodes and grab the project sheets and all that good stuff. So yes, while I go live at 8 p.m. Eastern time on the third Thursday of the month, if that schedule doesn't work for you or for some reason you can't join us live, you can absolutely watch the replay at any time, which is one of the things I love about YouTube. So yes, absolutely. Let's see. Send me a message, Cindy, because I may forget to double check, but I usually go back and read through the comments. So either you'll hear from me. If you don't hear from me, send me an email. Does that make sense? I can't remember if I have a sign up from you yet or not, but great question. Let's see. What do you do so your heart does not lift up when you stamp on it with the Versamark? So a couple of different things. For me, I use the Waffle Flower Grip Mat for my mini Misty. Another thing is My Sweet Petunia also sells sticky mats that fit the stamp positioning tool. Alternatively, you could use a little bit of washi tape if you're worried about, if you don't have, something sticky to grip that die cut when you're doing sort of the blanks and multiples. So you could use a little piece of washi tape or Post-it tape just to kind of hold it in place. I also do find that if you take your time when you lift the lid, it should release the cardstock. and not stick too hard as long as you take your time. I know we all have a tendency to kind of move things really quickly and then the cardstock sticks to the photopolymer. But if you take your time, you can usually have that paper release and it stay put. But a couple of things. So the waffle flower grip mat, the sticky mats from My Sweet Petunia, washi tape or post-it notes or anything. You want to make sure that you position the post-it note in a way that's not in the way of your stamped image. So those are just a couple of ideas for you. Let's see. Does Versamark leave a film on your stamps? I have a few stamps that do not seem to stick to my blocks as well as they did when they were new. So I haven't really experienced Versamark leaving a film, only because I do try to clean my stamps really well. So you can do a couple of things like a stamp chamois or like the Simply chamois pretty quickly after using Versamark. You can also use dish soap and cool water, not cold, not hot, but kind of cool or room temperature water. If your stamps are not sticking, that would typically mean it's because of the back side having some type of residue. And that can happen over time with the oils on our fingers, dust, you name it. So for that, I recommend just doing the dish soap and water sort of bath. That's typically how I have a tendency to have my stamps pile up before I clean them. And I will usually do kind of a bath where I've got soapy water and then probably another dish of soapy water where I just kind of transfer it because, you know, there's still ink coming off of those. And then 2 bowls of clean water. Just to make sure I get all the ink and the soap residue off. And that usually brings the stickiness back to photopolymer. Again, it's kind of a combination of oils from your fingers, dust, sometimes Versamark that you may not have cleaned off completely. So try those couple of things. I also love the Stampin' Scrub from Stampin' Up. That's a little bit harder to use if you're using a stamp positioning tool. So for that, I typically recommend the chamois or just doing kind of that soap bath. So hopefully that helps you.
I sent that.
For Martha?
Yeah.
Do I have a box for bee balm?
I just sent her in balm to search.
Oh, gotcha. I'm not sure if I've done one specifically for bee balm. Martha, if you think of it, send me an email at support@thepaperpixie.com just so I know specifically which one you're talking about. There might be a specific brand you're talking about, so let me know. Ooh, do I have a special Christmas traditional recipe to share with us? Do we have a special one? We do, don't we? Shrimp fondue. I feel like that's special, at least since I've been a part of the DiMatteo family. So,
Not really a recipe.
So the way Brian works with recipes is it changes every year. But we have, well, ever since I've been part of the family, so what is it, almost 22 years now, Brian's mom on Christmas Eve will make shrimp fondue, and it's a cheese fondue with shrimp in it, but it's basically Swiss. The ingredients have changed over time, but Swiss cheese, I think cream of shrimp, but that can be really hard, cream of celery instead. So Swiss cream of celery, shrimp, minced onions, like the dried onions. That's pretty much it. It's like really basic, and then baguette, skewers, and Brian always likes to go extra with the big jumbo shrimp. But that's typically what we do on Christmas Eve. Other than that, I have my mom's cookie recipe, which those of you that have been on my email list for a while have gotten that recipe. I will send it out again for you, but it's Pixie's sour cream cookies. That's another tradition for my family as well. So great questions, Andy. Thank you. Wow, you guys were easy on me with the questions this week. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much. So a couple of reminders, we will be live next on Wednesday, January 8th. That will be for episode 300. I'm looking at my notes, 358. So we're going to take the next 2 weeks off. I will be in the inbox as you need me. Just a quick reminder on product shares. Sign up ends January 5th. My shopping special for December, if you place a $100 order with me, you get a free Paper Pumpkin coupon code to use at your leisure. That is a $24 value, free value for a $100 order. Check out the Last Chance products. Again, those are all while supplies last. And looking at my notes again, the new mini catalog and celebration starts on Tuesday, January 7th. I cannot wait until you guys see that catalog. Those of you that have shopped with me and put in your catalog request, those catalogs all went out on Friday and they're starting to arrive at a mailbox near you. If you haven't shopped with me in a while or you're new to me, you can get free catalogs from me just by placing a $25 order, or you can always request catalogs and just cover the shipping costs. So all of that information is on my website, thepaperpixie.com. And just another reminder, my Pixie Patron members only stream tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. What's the date tomorrow? December 19th, my nephew's birthday. Also the anniversary of my open heart surgery. So December 19th is a date that I won't forget. That's tomorrow for Pixie Patron. And what else? I do just want to thank all of you for supporting our business this year for 2024. I'm super excited for what 2025 has in store for us. Excited to bring you all new projects for the year and looking forward to starting a new year. And I just want to wish each and every one of you the happiest of holidays, whatever you celebrate, a very happy new year. And I also want to say I'm holding space for those of you who this time of year may be a difficult time for you. I'm holding space in my heart for you. It's one of those things with me. I lost my mom 27 years ago, December 5th. Her birthday was December 15th. It was her favorite holiday, and it's my second Christmas without my dad. So I'm feeling it too, but I just want you to know that I am holding space for you. And again, looking forward to what 2025 has to bring for us. Looking forward to hanging out with my patrons tomorrow night. And we will see you guys on January 8th for episode 358. Here's a shout out to my Pixie patrons. Thank you so much for your support. Blessings to each and every one of you, and Happy New Year. Take good care. Bye.